Flogcast may occasionally contain explicit content that makes it not safe for work or for minors. It also doesn't provide an excuse to use the same words on Bay 13. Normal big footy rules still apply.
So this is the Flogcast for round 21 of the 2013 season. Fyfie joined by Duckula.
G'day.
The Cat Wrangler.
You beauty!
And Paddlepop.
Hey.
You never introduced me first. I'm not your favourite.
I know
there.
It does make my dick move a little bit when he says me first. It's like, oh, am I the favourite? But in reality, off the Flogcast, I don't get any respect, There's no stalker like, styles like Paddlepop gets, and there's no hate like the Cat Wrangler gets. I'm just the forgotten panel member. So I'm glad that Fyfe makes me feel included.
The very first game of this week we'll go with, it was probably the game of the round prior to it, and it delivered Collingwood versus Sydney. I thought Collingwood were pretty impressive. They play well against the Swans.
I reckon the Swans have a very poor record against other teams in the top 8 this year. They've lost most of their games, almost all of them, to the top 8 sides. Smashed them. Pies smashed them.
They drew with
Don't
three
have very
at home.
good form.
The highest ranked team they've beaten is Richmond.
The Pies, though, are looking pretty hot. I think the Pies and Freo are playing the best footy in the league at the moment. Clearly the favourites for the flag, those two, right now. Dale Thomas, I hear, is coming back any day now. We'll play either this weekend or next. I can't see the Pies losing again this weekend, this season. They could go right through undefeated. And I'll tell you who impressed me on the weekend, Grundy. I think he's the real deal. They've got to find in him a really nice ruckman, which is what they needed because I think Jolly is finished.
Saw him in the championships last year. He looked solid ruckman. I was very surprised he slipped as far as he did. But Sydney losing to Collingwood all of a sudden has opened up Sydney's 4th spot. It is very gettable now.
What are you trying to say, Fyfe? You just stop beating around the bush and say what you're thinking.
Tigers 4.
If Richmond or Collingwood win all 3, it's a very possible chance that Sydney will finish outside the top 4. They could finish as low as 6th if both win all 3, because Sydney play both Geelong and Hawthorn the run home. If they lose both of those and the other two win, or one of the other two teams wins all 3, Sydney will drop out of the 4.
Well, I hope you're right, because as a Hawthorn fan, we're a good chance to finish top. And if we do, and we get to play either Richmond or Collingwood first week in, I'll be very happy.
I get the feeling you're going to need to beat the Swans in the last game of the season to keep yourselves above Freo. Otherwise, Freo will go into top 2 with the Catters.
I agree.
With your opinion about Freo playing some of the best footy in the league at the moment, wasn't Sheedy banging on about how they had the softest draw? Your mate Sheedy?
They do have an easy draw, which is why I've loaded up with their players in the Bay 13 Supercoach League. They're playing great footy. They did beat GWS, who are an up-and-coming young team, by 100 points.
Not only that, they had 15 individual goal kickers.
You're going to play who is put in front of you. That's fair, but they've beaten Carlton and GWS the past couple of weeks, and Carlton aren't exactly going great guns themselves. I think before that, they're playing good lockdown footy, but I think they leave the door open just a little bit. And for a good team like Hawthorn or Geelong, they might pay for it.
Yeah, well, I have question marks over Hawthorn. I think they're very flat. The Essendon game, they were all right. But look, they've only played a few good games of footy. I just don't see them playing great footy. And as far as I'm concerned, Geelong, their defence is questionable. They shipped 16 goals on the weekend to Port, and Port just aren't that good.
7 to Anus.
Yeah. Against good teams, they are going to get smashed. The Swans, if you let them kick over 10 goals, they will beat you. Same with Freo. And there's every chance with their draw, they could travel to WA to play Freo first week in. And if that happens, they'll lose.
What have you got to say about last week you gave little Anus Wanfries a good rap over the knuckles? He's kind of stuck it up you over the weekend.
Yeah, well, clearly he listens to the Flogcast. It's all good, Anus is a big fan of mine, so, great.
Anus is a big fan of mine.
While we're talking about the Cats, I also want to say another problem they've got going in the finals is their rucks were absolutely Scheisenhausen, and they got smashed by Lobby, or whatever his name was. They doubled their hit-outs. Geelong have a few massive problems.
Their
They need
rucks
to fix
are an issue, that's for sure. That's probably their biggest weakness at the moment.
And to win a grand final, you generally need a really dominating ruck and a miserly defence and probably at least one dominating power forward big man.
The same thing for Hawthorn and for Geelong. They're not playing good footy, but they're winning games. That's generally a decent sign. My theory is that most teams have a slump some point in the year, and if you can still manage to win games during that slump, and it looks like that Hawks are kind of going through it at the moment, then the only way is up, and if you're still winning games, then it's not really that huge an issue, is it, unless you get your shit together at the right time.
True.
Speaking of big blokes, how about the Geelong supporters?
Tommy Hawkins.
Yeah, that's pretty piss poor that a bloke, what have they won? 140 of their last 170 games or something, and bloke doesn't bend over, so boo.
The whole attitude towards Tom Hawkins from Geelong supporters has been up and down at best since the start of his career anyway. He was a punching bag until he played about 4 good games in a row in, 2011? And then he showed up to play for most of 2012 and everyone was on him and they were like, oh, he's finally arrived, and then he's obviously a little bit stiff this year and they've jumped off again.
I feel sorry for Tom Hawkins. He clearly has a back injury and he is playing like a dog. I'm just glad the Hawks never booed Luke Hodge when he had a back problem. And, I just like to say, Geelong culture, come on.
You booed Buddy earlier this year when he didn't get a kick, though.
Do you know what a quick fix is? Breast reduction surgery. It is obviously a common trait in women that have, large breasts that they end up having a sore back. Maybe that's his problem.
I think we should go to the Richmond game now that you've sort of saying how you're a real chance to make the 8 there, the top 4. Now that you've made the 8, you're aiming higher. I have to say, I didn't think the Tigers were very impressive on the weekend.
We weren't. We played a pretty good first half, but that was it.
Yeah, I thought you were very ordinary, and I know you're talking about your top 4 chances, but I think you should share what you were saying off air about how unimpressive the Tigers were, Fyfie. I mean, weren't you just saying you're really just making up the numbers in the finals, even if you finished 4?
Funny thing is, the last 2 times we've played finals, we finished top 4. But no, we really were pretty ordinary against Brisbane. Like, the first half was actually really good football. Tackle pressure was up. They played well, and KFC boy was happy and shouting everyone buckets. And then second half, they decided to go out there and play Bruce-free Melbourne football because, just basically switched off until about the last 10 minutes of the game when it looked like it could be stolen. Even then, only about 4 stepped up to get us over the line.
What circles is KFC boy rolling in that he's shouting everyone buckets?
If you don't know what circles that KFC boy travels in, you probably must have missed his pop star turn. It's clearly a bit of a freaking, hanging out with the famous people, so...
He's on the edge of glory.
The circles he rolls in are people orbiting around him.
He's got his own gravitational pull, you reckon?
Yep. And when Richmond are winning, everyone is drawn to the KFC boy. And when they're losing, you kind of get the reverse effect. It's like...
White Dwarf.
Yeah, I was going to say that. Well, I was more picturing him as the, the Richmond version of Scarface kind of thing, and he's dishing out free cones for everyone. But, yeah, obviously not.
But, yeah, I've got not much else to say about that game. We could have played better, but we got a win. Paddles, anything on that?
We just left ourselves too much to do. 45 points at half time. We were fucking awful in the second quarter.
You desperately need someone up forward.
Forget GWS. We're the one that needs Buddy.
Carlton Bulldogs, well, wasn't that the upset of the week?
Yaron, he's gone. He will be chopped. He will be over here, I reckon, at the Freo Eagles next year.
I don't think either team would want him, really.
I think the Eagles are so desperate for outside run that they might, but I'm not saying that he'll walk into the side, but I think he'll get on the list.
He has value at other clubs still, Yaron. He's a line breaker and he's a good kick of the ball. I think he has value.
He needs a kick up the arse before he goes anywhere.
Yeah, for sure. But I think on the subject, did Mick say there's 14 possible chops from the team that played on Saturday?
So 14 players might not get invited to Mick's barbecue this week.
I'm thinking, which 8 are going to get invited? Out of that team, who are you going to pick?
Well, we know Juddy's already there because on Mick's menu this week, since Juddy's out for a couple of weeks, Juddy's going to be cooking his special barbecue chicken wings for everyone, but it's just who gets to eat them.
I've got the list of players right here in front of me who played on the weekend, guys, just so happens. I reckon we should do a quick round the table discussion on who's getting a place at Mick's barbecue this weekend. Number 1, Andrew Walker. He's been great. Mick's got a bit of steak set aside for him. Troy Mentor, he's too young. He's not going anywhere. Mick's got a sausage for him. Mark Murphy, I think he could be trade bait.
You think they're going to trade a captain, surely?
There's a pink sticky bun waiting for him.
Yeah, definitely.
All right, Bryce Gibbs, is he trade bait?
To who?
I think in South Australia, they'd be pretty keen for him. That would probably be about it. I think that would be the only reason that someone would want him is because of the bring him home kind of, and we'll take care of him.
They might Richard Tambling him in Adelaide.
I reckon that GWS should make a play for Bryce Gibbs. He's a line breaker. He's a half-back. He's a good kick.
What planet are you on where Bryce Gibbs are breaking lines? Where does this happen?
He's a chip scab seagull, but he's a line breaker. GWS are desperate for anyone over 24. Bootsma is currently a lock for our Spud team of the year. I don't think I have any arguments there. But I have found on the weekend watching this game, there's something he can do. He can kick it a mile, and he's big on the torps. He can kick it to the centre circle, which is great, except for the fact that I did notice that they all backfired the entire game. So he's shit still, but they did look great.
Do you reckon if he went to mixed barbecue that he'd probably get a stalk of celery or something? That's an apt meal for him, what he deserves.
I reckon he's a Mick favourite. He's definitely getting a sausage at mixed barbecue. He loves him for some reason, even though he's shit. I'm loving the Dogs at the moment. They're my current second team. They've got some young superstars there. The Coon Dog is back to his best.
Yeah, that's good to see.
I reckon some of those young pups are genuine hot dogs. I'm loving them, except Jared Grant, who doesn't impress me at all. He's half bear, half pig, half man. I don't like his game. It's ugly.
St Kilda Hawthorn, pretty solid win by the Hawks. Not much to say about that game, really. The only thing out of that game I really took is how the hell Cyril Rioli doesn't get suspended for his tackles.
From precedents so far this year, it just doesn't make any sense.
I disagree. Like, all he's doing is what everyone does. When they tackle, they grab an arm so they can't dispose of it because it's the only way you can get a holding the ball.
No, there's nobody slammed him into the deck.
Yeah, it's his head hitting the ground.
No.
Yes.
He didn't slam him. He spun in the tackle, but he didn't slam him.
Oh, watch it again.
He pulled him to the ground. There's a difference between slamming and pulling someone to the ground. And that was him pulling him to the ground.
I see what you're trying to say, but his knee didn't hit the ground first. His head did, man.
That's because he pulled him to the ground while they were spinning. It's not because he picked him up and drove him into the ground. It's different. That's why the guy didn't get injured. That's very low impact, and it's fair, and it's part of the game. You can't get rid of that. That's going to happen sometimes.
I don't think anyone wants to get rid of it. I think the problem here is obviously it's still the inconsistency of the MRP. It's nothing to do with that. In my opinion, Cyril should have gone. I think it's a perfectly fine tackle, and I think it's soft that players are getting suspended for tackling that way. But it's in terms of the McGinnity one from earlier in the year. McGinnity didn't pick him up off the ground. He threw him to the ground the same as Cyril did. It was just the only difference was that this guy's face hit the ground, so he knocked him out a little bit or made him a little bit concussed.
It's a concussion thing.
The trouble here is that you're basically going to be making it impossible for a smaller player to tackle a bigger player.
There's plenty of other ways to do it. Like there's the old tackle around the waist, pin the arm, drop your weight and let them fall to ground with you.
But he was doing that.
No, because he pulled him down. He's pulled him sideways. He didn't drop him straight down. He's put the action in, and I'm actually demonstrating it and you can't see me, which is fucking ridiculous.
I can hear your arm moving.
When you have a smaller player tackling a bigger player, he's always going to have momentum. He's going to have to pull down on that player to bring him to ground. And that's what he was doing. There's no other way of doing it.
Nah, that's bullshit. That's clumsy. There are smaller blokes who can tackle and bring a bloke down that's bigger than them, and they don't resort to that. The only reason Rioli gets off is because he's a protected species, and this isn't the first time it's happened this year.
Gold Coast against Melbourne, I want to get those 3 hours of my life back. Net.
Apparently the kicking for goal was woeful, and the Melbourne players, from the look of things, had 2 players trying to basically block Ablett at every opportunity, didn't watch the footy, nothing got paid, and for once I think when he had a sook to the umpires, he was probably in the right, unlike last week with the review, but this week I thought that was piss poor. He got manhandled in a way that shouldn't happen. And Campbell Brown kicked the guy in the face. That was pretty poor too.
That was awesome. It was one motion, nothing in it.
Essendon West Coast, which was, I think, everyone's favourite result of the week.
Yeah, definitely. And Heisenherd's empire is starting to crumble. And I'm putting the TM on that shit, that Heisenherd. I want royalties if it's ever used again. But yeah, it was a surprising outcome for Eagles supporters. But I think other people that have watched Essendon enough in the past month were expecting their wheels to start falling off like they did against Collingwood at least.
That was comprehensive in the end, the way Essendon folded. Even Heppel gave up chasing the bloke into goal.
He squibbed a chase down.
Yeah, and let Fletcher come in and do his sniper thing.
What a disgrace. And I've got to say, I can't believe the hypocrisy of Heisenherd. All year he's been saying, we're going to play better just because of the Peds. So how do you keep winning? Oh, the Peds, we're bonding together. And now finally they're losing. Now it's the Peds are making them lose now. That guy, you can't trust him. It's all bullshit. I've never heard such rubbish. Anyone who sends his wife down the shop is a ballless wonder flog. And I'm giving him points in our Fig Jam Award. 2 points for Heisenherd this week for being such an absolute puss bag. 3 points I gave to continual abuse of bad haircuts. Our favourite boy down at the Swans, Grimace Hannah's.
Yeah, 1, 2.
Modlop finger twirl.
Stevie Motlop, yeah.
He looks a bit too pleased with himself.
Stupid fucking wanker.
The Essendon fans have stopped trusting him because only 32,000 turned up to stand by him this week.
Hashtag standby.
And they let the West Coast supporters out boo Jab. Like, they didn't even cheer him when he got the footy. They let the West Coast supporters just go boo. And, you know, you don't let the West Coast supporters do that.
And it happens to be a fact that the hashtag standby herd t-shirts on eBay are now on sale.
I might pick one up.
I think the Bay should start buying a couple of those just for fun. Something could be done with that. West Coast at 11:15 in Perth time. I'd have thought they would be out in the new TV rights deal when they're able to be a bit more flexible with their times, like twilight games and such.
Yeah, it's a bit of a weird time as well, because most people in Perth are waking up from the whatever fight they got in Northbridge from the night before. It's not a great time when you're still nursing a hangover. You need that post-greasy breakfast lunch to get ready for the footy, and yeah, not very considerate of the AFL, I got to say.
Adelaide North.
I saw about half of this game, and I was pretty excited. I thought that because North had to chase down the lead, I thought this was one they could win, but they ended up crumbling again.
North reverse choke.
I watched all of the third quarter, and I was actually in awe of how well Daniel Wells played for that whole quarter. It was very impressive. And it's taken him almost over 150 games to start maybe delivering what was expected of him anyway.
Yeah, he personifies the North Melbourne culture currently. He's amazing at playing one quarter.
But North will be all right because if you haven't heard, they're getting David Swallow. It's all the rage on the North board at the moment. David Swallow's coming to play with his brother. Andrew's not going to go North. David's going to come play for Brad Scott.
Yeah, there's always a rumour every year.
Moving on to the two big stories of the week, with the amazing news today that Crazy Vossy has been sacked from Brisbane. Well, I think the only option is to ask Paddles what he thinks of that.
Well, honestly, I'm still shocked and disgusted at the news. I know Vossy has made mistakes in the past, but I honestly thought he was getting his act together. I thought he was guiding us in the right direction. And even though 2013 has been disappointing, I still thought he warranted another year or two. I wouldn't mind Paul Roos as a replacement, but honestly, knowing the Brisbane board, I wouldn't expect him to be our coach. It's a shame that it shouldn't have been our coach. It should have been the board. It should have been our administration gone, and it's definitely the jumper. Those are real problems.
Yeah, the jumper in.
It's the administration, and obviously it was a pretty gutless move. Like, does everyone else think it was pretty gutless the way the administration handled it, trying to slip it out under the cover of the Essendon charges?
Yeah, because it's not like any one thing he's done recently, because the team's actually been performing quite well. So they've been looking for some sort of like
misdirection.
Distraction to put the knife in. It's a bit of a massive blindside, really, isn't it?
Yeah, very gutless act. In fact, our top 5 from this week is focused on things that are surprisingly less gutless than the Brisbane board sacking Crazy Vossy yesterday. Number 5.
Lando Calrissian blindsiding Han Solo.
Number 4.
Lee Matthews hit on Neville Bruns back in the black and white days.
Boom!
Number 3, and this is because Alter Rob would not have let us not include it, is Judas backstabbing Jesus. Number 2.
Ross the Boss Lion. Not only did he nail the Saints to the wall and blindside them, but he also blindsided the guy who was going to replace over at Freo.
And number 1.
Black flag on watching on a bet.
He even welched on the Bryans.
But they were talking about on 360 that the president was getting heckled at some function.
Yeah, Angus Johnson, apparently what makes it even worse, he actually just smirked as soon as he got booed.
Look, I'll say this, Vossy struggled as a coach. I don't think he was ever going to take you anywhere. But just everything about the way this has been handled has been pathetic from Brisbane. And you're right about the Paddlepop jumper. It is pretty shit and all of that. So they clearly aren't doing their job properly. Look, I think they probably may have made the right decision on this one, but it depends on who you get.
It's the Brisbane Lions board. We won't get Paul Roos.
I don't think you do either. Roos wants a ready-made team that he can take in 3 or 4 years. He wants to be able to inherit a team like Ross Lyon inherited at Freo, the team that's halfway there, very close.
I thought we were nearly there. Honestly, I thought Voss had us in the right direction.
But you're not nearly there without a key forward and an aging full-back in Merritt. Like, that's the thing, you're really hurting for talls, kind of like Carlton are. Carlton traded Fev out and Kennedy, and all of a sudden their prospects in future went down. That's why Richmond had to keep Revolt. That's why, well, Hawthorn don't have to keep Buddy, but they would be better off keeping him.
One thing that's disappointed me in hindsight is trading away Lockie Henderson. I reckon he would have been very useful for us.
I feel bad for Vossy because even though he started off so badly, I actually really do think he turned it around and was going places. Anyway, Vlad has been greasing up the shaft down at AFL House with a big backstab, apparently. He's easing the tip into James Hurd's right sphincter as we speak. He's putting Reid, Hurd, and a couple of other people down in Essendon up on charges of bringing the game into disrepute, which is his handy sort of like rule he has when he can't like nail them for anything else. He just nails them with that. It's awesome. It's like a shotgun.
It's more like a nuclear bomb, really. You don't have to drop it on the target. You just got to drop it somewhere close, and it takes out everything within 30 Ks.
What does everyone reckon? The Bombers getting in early and getting away with it easy? Or is Vlad going to pull the trigger on the A-bomb and knock the Bombers the fuck out? Bang. Is he going to do a Lee Matthews?
I think the fact that the AFL have been very careful over this over the past 2 days, very careful with the wording and everything they're charging Essendon with, making sure that the charges are very specific, because obviously the report came out a while ago and there was rumours of Monday and all reports where they were tweaking it, then nailing every last bit of language so they can get them, because they want no wriggle room when they hand it down and the charges to be answered. They don't want Hurd to do his little sneaky, grubby, little snake-like thing that he is and slither out of their grasp on a technicality.
Does anyone else think that James Hurd is the biggest weasel that's ever lived?
Do you know what I enjoyed most out of today? You know, with the I'm not sure if you saw it. There was like an AFL watch on the Essendon saga today, and it was just a massive non-event where like the most exciting thing was like a pizza delivery being delivered to the journos.
And the ice cream truck.
Yeah. What I did enjoy was when Hurd did appear and they asked him what he'd been up to this morning, and he said he'd been reading books to children. Well, my mind immediately flashed to him, you know, having a bunch of kids strapped into chairs like a Clockwork Orange and him reading Mein Kampf to him or something. It didn't go to the Hungry Little Caterpillar. He was reading something like the Charles Manson Diaries or something. It was just such an odd thing for him to say he was doing.
Yeah, it wouldn't be the first time he'd injected something untoward into a young person.
But yeah, Hurd was reading a couple of books to his kids and just can't help but wonder what books they were. And we've got the top 5 books that Jimmy Hurd's been reading to his kids. So
Number 5 is 120 Days in Sodom by the Marquis de Sade.
Number 4.
My Story by David Koresh.
Number 3.
Dianetics, the Modern Science of Mental Health, which is like the Scientology equivalent of the Bible.
Number 2, O.J. Simpson, If I Did It. And the number 1 book that James Hurd read, it's a favourite of his.
Lance Armstrong's autobiography. It's not all about the bike. Probably got a puncher or two along the way, I reckon, Lance. I'm just hoping that Vlad puts it in nice and deep and that he gives it some serious pain, because I would hate to see our game of football, which I hold in such high regard, to be disrespected by some sort of little sort of love slap, you know, that they gave Melbourne. I want to see lifetime bans. I want to see $5 million fines handed down to Essendon Football Club. I really want to see some bloodletting, because they're drug cheats and our whole game is right now an international joke, you know, and it hurts.
It is a joke, and like life bans may be very hard to handle. I'm at that point where I would settle for just guilt, so that he's literally becomes disgraced Essendon coach James Hurd in every sense of the word. I'd just love to be able to hear that in future. Disgraced former Essendon coach James Hurd. Doesn't have a nice ring to it, don't you think?
I do. Whatever happens to Hurdy, his career has to be disgraced more than what our game has been disgraced by his behaviour.
Yes, that would be the most proportional response. That the game stops carrying the burden of what Essendon does, and that Essendon and James Hurd carry it.
Yeah, and I don't think Essendon fans really get that about the absolute ripping that their club has given the integrity of our game, and just how pissed off we all are about it. It's gone through my mind. It's like, do I even want to watch football anymore? That thought has actually occurred to me for the first time. They don't get it. They're dicks. They seriously need to wake the fuck up.
This is nowhere near as over as most Essendon supporters would like to believe. Because here's something that got really missed in what Dylan said. Apparently he cleared the players on AOD. But the interim report has already been reported that it does not carry any sanctions or anything against a player. It can't have an infraction listed. It can't have a breach listed to a player because it's an interim report. They cannot list those things until it's finalised. Everything the AFL is prosecuting off at the moment is just the peripheral stuff, the stuff that doesn't directly link to a drugs violation. It's everything they can get Essendon on. Nothing a player can be got on because it's not closed.
That's right. All the players are going to get dealt with down the road by Sada Wada.
This is the thing, I just can't get over the thymosin. Essendon purchased thymosin.
Yeah, a lot of it.
Thymosin beta 4, the illegal thymosin. Essendon players were injected with a thymosin that cannot be determined what thymosin it was. That doesn't take a genius. Even Bombers 2003 can do that maths.
Yeah.
Let's not get carried away, please. What frustrates me a fair bit about it is that in something like the Tour de France, which is a massive sporting event, they don't take any shit. If someone is guilty, they fuck them off.
Yeah, but they get some serious fucking evidence for that, though. Like, you have to literally fail fail a test or be found with a needle in your room. And they've only been that way since they had a problem. Like, that's why they have to be vigilant. The AFL are going to be so vigilant after this, but this is the first one. You know, this is the first time it's happened apart from Justin Charles, which everyone thought was like a one-off. The Tour de France are so vigilant because their sport's so dirty that it's just like they have so many strict procedures. Whereas the AFL kind of, I guess, took it easy because they thought, oh, no one's going to do it. Now it's going to be like, you know, the AFL banned injections early this year. No more injections that aren't painkillers, basically. Well, that's the first response. Next response will be, you know, some other kind of procedural thing. And if you break that procedure, you find yourself in trouble. That's the thing. Essendon have broken a procedure that's going to be put in place. It may not be properly in place now. It's vaguely in place now, but it's not concrete. The next person to break a similar procedure, they may not even break it as badly, will get absolutely fucked.
No legal action, no loopholes.
If that does happen, it's just going to frustrate me that whoever's doing it might do it to a lesser extent by getting more trouble.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. It is frustrating, but that is how it will go.
This week on the Bay, Thread of the Week was pretty hotly contested. There were a few good ones.
Definitely the education of Essendon was a good one.
I'm thinking post of the week was, because, you know, I love my post of the week, was that amazing Scarface thing with Hurd. That was unreal.
Yeah, that was by Waylon Smithers, I think.
Absolute ball terror.
There was another great one that I think slipped through the cracks by a friend of the Flogcast, Penal Pav, which was the Channel 7 discussion of the Asada verdict, which I thought was fantastic.
I love that.
Good work. It was good work, yeah.
Flog of the week. Look, that welching flog Doc Brown.
Oh, God, that guy's a knob.
Yeah.
But it's good to see him getting a nice new shiny badge. We just thought welching's a black mark next to your name, so now he's got a black mark next to his name.
We flagged him as a welcher now.
Yeah.
So what you're trying to say there, guys, is that after getting his badge, Doc Brown, you know, maybe he was feeling a bit damaged and everything went black and having a bit of a trouble to rise above his new station in life.
Have you got a new medal on your profile, Fyfie?
Oh yeah, that podcast one. How come you got one and I didn't?
Yeah, that's bullshit.
Yeah, I've been speaking to Ant to see if we can get one. Duckula, I think you're getting one soon.
Oh, awesome, cool.
All right, I'm like
That's
only
just-
the
that's
blog
like-
who's on it the most, you know, and like talking about shit. I'm just not the favourite, goddammit.
I said that because I knew you'd go for the favouritism angle. But yeah, Chief put it up today. I haven't spoken to him about doing it further yet.
I'll PM Chief and let him know I'm the star of the show then, shall I?
I'm the one with the badge. That makes me the star of the show. Last week's poll, which was a very interesting question, and I'll get your thoughts on this after. But who should sing at the grand final? 8% voted the Cat Wrangler. Well done, Cat Wrangler, for getting 8% of the vote to sing at the grand final. 2% for Duckula, not so much.
Yeah.
12% for myself, so that was a bit odd. 10% for Mardo, they must have loved the South Australian accent. 20% for Jack Watts, and the rest, which was just about 49%, was for our friend Paddlepop.
I started that thread that I saw that poll come up, and like a minute later there was like 8 votes for me.
With the results of this, I think on the grand final episode, we should get a performance from Paddlepop.
Yeah, fine.
I want to hear it now.
Moving on to next week, Hawthorn Collingwood Friday.
Probably match of the past few weeks, I reckon. With Hawthorn a bit questionable and Collingwood look like they're hitting some decent form, it should be a ripper game.
I reckon if Collingwood turn up with the same kind of football that beat the Swans and Essendon, they will beat Hawthorn, because the Hawks are a little bit flat at the moment. I think they've got a few weaknesses, and Collingwood are capable of exploiting that if they play at that same level they've been playing recently, because that's some red-hot footy.
I agree. That's spot on. I think the Pies will come out in the first quarter, and if they can kick straight and get some major scoreboard pressure on, they'll win this game. Their midfield, they have not had all these guys together playing like this since 2 years. And they haven't played together in so long, and they're only now hitting form. Ball's playing football like he was when they won the flag. He's looking fantastic. The Hawks really are flat. They will start slowly. I think the Hawks can potentially win the next 2 or maybe 3 quarters, but will that be enough to win them the game? I don't know. I think it's the Pies to lose at the moment, I think.
And just one thing, Collingwood look a hell of a lot better team now when they throw Ben Reid forward. I don't know if they'll be able to do that with Buddy and Roughhead up forward for Hawthorn, but when Reid is there to add as not even a decoy for Cloak because he's a good footballer, but just as an extra target to confuse the defence, Collingwood look a lot better.
Oh, yeah.
He looks a better than his brother.
Yeah, he does. But Hawthorn might force Collingwood to play him down back, and that's where Hawthorn could win the game. But if Collingwood play at the same intensity with Reid up forward, they'll win.
I think the key for Collingwood winning this is in the middle of the park, and Grundy has to stand tall and win the ruck with Max Bailey coming back, because Hawthorn's rucks have been fantastic this year. They've been top draw, and that could be where Collingwood loses this game.
All right, I'm Collingwood.
Collingwood
Hawks.
winning form is winning form.
Hawthorn.
Richmond Carlton. I think if we play at our best, the way we played the first half last week, we'll roll them. They are struggling at the moment, but if we take the foot off the gas, they're every chance to beat us.
This actually is an interesting game, and this is so big for Richmond, because I was going to say they could finish top 4 if they win this, but you already touched on that. And it's their nemesis, so I tell you what, this is actually going to be a great game. I'm going to watch this, and I'm tipping the Tigers to win because their form's better, and they could really go top 4.
I'm going to say maybe Carlton don't pack at the barbecues this weekend, just leave them out for the following Monday.
I want Richmond to win this just to keep our mathematical chances of making the finals alive, and they're playing Carlton. Fuck Carlton.
Fuck Carlton's a pretty good way to go with that. Port versus Gold Coast at Amy. Is this the first time they played at Amy since the infamous game?
Yeah, it actually is.
Port will win this time.
Port.
I'm thinking Port, but hopefully Gold Coast can make me laugh again.
Essendon versus North. Well, this is just two teams who won't be playing finals, so...
This is the choke cup, seriously. Neither of these teams know how to win at the moment. It's going to be, a race to lose.
Brisbane GWS.
Not looking forward to this one. I'm a bit worried it could be like Gold Coast against Carlton from last year, because over the past month, apart from that Fremantle result, they've genuinely gone better, just like how Gold Coast got better in the last 2 months of last season. So I'll just be happy with the 4 point, 1 point, 100 points, doesn't matter. I just want to win this.
Teams that lose by 100 points one week don't win games of footy generally the next week. 10-goal win to the Lions.
GWS are capable. I agree at Paddles, they're capable, but Brisbane will win. West Coast Geelong.
Boo.
Boo.
Ooh.
And I think Geelong, if they don't put West Coast to the sword, then they're not gone as well as perhaps thought.
I reckon the ruck again is going to be massive in this game. Geelong's rucks are absolute Scheisenhausen, and they're up against the best ruckman I reckon it's ever played the game.
Cox.
Yeah, but that was
reckon-
maybe last year, not so much this year.
No, I reckon this year he's starring still. I love him. Geelong are no certainty to win this.
Yeah, West Coast are a sneaky chance. I think their motivation will be dependent on what happens with Essendon.
The reason why I say it is ruck and tall forwards at West Coast. Their West Coast strengths play on Geelong's weaknesses. I know they've got some great tall defenders, but their defence is really poor at the moment. And I just think,
Yeah, I think West Coast will cause an upset. I reckon West Coast will win. And good luck to the West Coast supporters who'll be handing out flyers. Hopefully you don't get kicked out in the land near Subi.
You end up in Wambat's dungeon instead of Roy Lyons. Melbourne versus Freo, tips only.
Fremantle.
Rio.
Freo. Sydney, St Kilda.
Sydney to get the real victory, and St Kilda to get the moral victory.
Yeah, St Kilda are rubbish. Sydney. Bulldogs, Adelaide, this could be close.
I hope Bulldogs, but I think Adelaide.
Yeah, I think Crows just, but, this is genuine 50-50.
Yeah, I think the Crows will win, but I want the Bulldogs to win. Bulldogs 2013 actually remind me of Hawthorn in 2005 and 2006. Like, they can get the occasional good win. They show a lot of heart and endeavour, and they've got signs for a good future.
McCartney's actually showing some of those other teams down the bottom how you do a proper rebuild, because Carlton tried to cut corners, and so have Melbourne, and the Bulldogs have just, built up some decent picks on the way down, and then when they've got to the bottom, they picked up some good ones, and they're going to pick up some good ones on the way back up again.
Bulldogs remind me of the Lions. Like, they could actually win something if they had a Kohler.
And a key forward, Tom Boyd.
They would pick up a fair few fans, though, if they started winning games, don't you reckon?
What, you mean like ones who've never seen football before? New converts out west.
That's exactly what I was referring to.
This was the vlogcast for round 21. Fyfie joined by the Cat Wrangler.
Keep wrangling.
You got first mention there. You should have been happier than that.
I was hoping someone would notice that.
Yeah, but first on the outro means he doesn't like you as well.
He's gone.
Glad to be going most.
Piss off, mate. Get out. I'm saying you first, so you fuck off.
And then we close the door after you got and we keep talking.
Yeah. Oh, he's going on about that fucking Cyril Rioli's too small to tackle blokes. Duckula.
Thanks, guys.
And Paddles.
Bye.
So if you made it this far, well done, and thanks for listening.